I feel like lots of people will disagree with this, but there are two versions of Queen in my head. There is the true rock god revolutionary band version of Queen, the band that did the incredible Live Aid performance in 1985, that wrote Killer Queen, that were in the I Want to Break Free video, that were able to shift genres, so fluidly just through that one rule of, entertain the audience. And then there is the second Queen, which is the Queen that you yell down the microphone at karaoke, and it's quite fun, but it's a bit cheesy, it's a bit superficial, it's a little bit messy. And Bohemian Rhapsody is very much that second version of Queen. It is all spirit and then no soul, which I can see being enough for some people, but I think for me, if you're trying to tell the story of a real band, of the real Queen, then it is just far too hollow. And I know that, there's been this very troubled production history with the film that's been very well publicized, from Sacha Baron Cohen dropping out of the film due to disagreements with the band, to the hiring of Bryan Singer, which was controversial due to the allegations against him. Also, his involvement was further complicated when he was fired off set due to unreliable behavior, and Dexter Fletcher had to step in, although due to DGA guidelines, Bryan Singer is still officially the sole director. But I have to say, this film doesn't scream to me troubled production. I think there aren't any weird editing errors or sort of weird gaps in time. I think my issues with it stem more from just the vision of the film and what it was trying to do. And it feels very much like, on the one hand, it is trying to be the greatest hits history of Queen, and anything that is the darkest lows is very clumsily and hastily dealt with. It doesn't want to engage with anything that is too emotionally difficult or too complicated. And also, it has this weird insistence on including the full catalogue of Queen. And so to the point that, and I should point out, everything is lip synced in this song, so there's no live performances. But so it gets to the point when you get to this Live Aid performance, and although it is brilliantly shot, and I think all the live performances are brilliantly shot, there's a great energy to them, but that Live Aid performance at the end has maybe 5 songs in it, and it felt almost like they got to the end and they went, right, what will be missed? Oh, Radio Gaga, we have to make sure we get Radio Gaga, otherwise people will be upset. And then when you get to the musical turning points in the band's history, like We Will Rock You or Bohemian Rhapsody, you get these very strange little backstories. And so we have the clip for one here. And just turn down the volume if you're listening to this loudly. I just want to warn you.
How was that?
Higher. Can you go a bit higher?
If I go any higher, only dogs will hear me.
Try. Higher.
Jesus, how many more Galileos do you want?
One more.
One more.
Again.
Go on, roll the track. Who even is Galileo? Are we done?
That's it. He loves you.
I'm imagining in a large room somewhere in London, there is a figure that is backed up against a wall surrounded by corgis. Just right now. Yapping away, looking menacing.
Yeah, so apologies for that, but it's a good representation of the film. And so you have these scenes where, it will be the band. So you've got Freddie Mercury played by Rami Malek, Brian May played by Gwilym Lee, you've got Roger Taylor played by Ben Hardy, John Deacon played by Joseph Mazzello, and they'll all argue amongst each other for 5 minutes about, should we do this song? Oh, it's very different from what we've done before. And then someone says, oh, but we have to do it because that's Queen. And so then they do it and it becomes a huge success. And it's this very wink nudge attitude. There's this one scene with Mike Myers, who turns up as an EMI executive, and he's complaining about how no one will want to listen to a 6-minute Bohemian Rhapsody. And then he drops a Wayne's World reference, which to me, it's too much. You cannot do that. It's ridiculous. It crosses a line for me. And so the problem with this film, I think, at its very core, is that it wants to be this fun skip through Queen's discography, but it also wants to be the Freddie Mercury biopic. It wants to be the definitive one. it's very much from his perspective, as I guess it would be if you're making a film about Queen, but he is so terribly underserved here, and it's such a shame because Rami Malek is so good in this, and he nails, the stage presence and the theatricality, but I think he also brings something a little quieter to the more pensive moments, which just really needed in this film. And it just, I feel sad because I feel like if he had been given better material, this had been a better film, we would be talking about Oscars here because that's how good this performance is. And, I think as well, the problem is he's just not given enough to do. And Freddie Mercury was such an incredible and fascinating and complex person. And, nothing here is really explored to its fullest. And, for example, I know everyone was very worried about how his sexuality would be depicted here because I know he was a very private person. So it's not like we have any sort of definitive version of that story we can tell. Some people would describe him as gay. Some people would describe him as bisexual. I think the film does leave it undefined, but it focuses a lot on his relationship with Mary Austin, played by Lucy Boynton, who he wrote Love of My Life about. But he did also have a relationship near the end of his life with Jim Hutton, who's played here by Aaron McCusker, which is left as this epilogue that we never really get to see. And so I think it's a shame for me to leave this whole chapter of his life just untold. And so that is the difficulty of the film for me, is that you can't be the fun, Queen movie, yeah, slap, clap, stomp, clap, not slap, clap. Stomp,
You can
clap.
do whatever you like.
That's my new Queen song, slap, clap. But, it can't be that, and it also can't be the definitive Freddie story, and it's really not doing the latter any justice.